One of the hallmarks of the annual conference is its emphasis on creativity. And this year does not disappoint. So it's with great pleasure and keen interest that I'm introducing Laura Manis, CEO of Havas New York, and Tiffany Rolfe, Chief Creative Officer at RGA, two agency leaders of renown from long renowned agencies that have been both leaders and innovators. Given the evolving needs and wants of customers, be they consumers or B2B customers that Janet talked about just now in her session, will creativity take different forms than it has in the past? And Laura and Tiffany will tag team the topic, Imagining the New Creative Paradigm.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Tiff. How's it going?
You. It's it's been a crazy year. It's great to be able to talk with another agency leader and one that has been going through all the same stuff. So I was just going to open it up. I know we've had a couple of prep conversations maybe, and I know a big theme that came up for us, and one I think that you related to, was just like, there is the truth that I think we've known and we've heard a lot about how important it is for brands to be guided by purpose, right? Something kind of at a higher altitude than just what they sell. And I think though, just in this last phase that we've all been through, how critical that was for brands to truly have like a purpose to find, their value for people in the world, and expressing that through actions over ads. We've been talking about a lot, and some brands have been doing it, but it was pretty much critical during this time. And I'm sure, I don't know if you experienced that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the brands and the agencies that had a clear purpose going into this crisis are the ones that are currently thriving. There have been so many changes that have been happening, as you said, around us in our lives and in the world. But what's true about a company's ambition and that intention, the core values, the DNA of the company, those are the things that I think rise to the top and become the tip of the spear, particularly in a crisis. And I think it's become a real opportunity for brands and, for us as agencies to take action.
Yeah. And what I found, as being a creative person, and having to solve really in real time, right? When you can't just plan what your marketing calendar is going to look like ahead, because the world is literally like changing around you day by day, to have a North Star, to have that purpose, so you can, I think, create in real time. You can change, from one day to the next. And I think also focusing it more around action, like what are we going to do? It wasn't enough, I think, to say things. And we had a great example. We work with Verizon. It's one of our largest clients, and their purpose is to build the networks that move the world forward. And I think during this time, we saw, we've all needed the networks right now, right? Like this is how we're functioning. But then there were a lot we heard in the last talk, like there are no retail spaces. People aren't meeting in person. A lot of what they do to market to people is through physical interactions, concert series where we're getting up and gearing to go. There was a lot that was planned to really demonstrate that they couldn't do. And we had, in just a matter of days, figured out how to help harness that. I think as a partner that leads, through digital social first, we were really able to stand up and think about what could we help Verizon do with the power that they have of their networks, literally, but also the network of talents and partners. And could we do something in this moment that helps bring people together, in a short amount of time, utilizing the technology that they have. And so we launched this the series, which I'll show you in a video, and in addition, really thought about what could it do to help support people right now. And one of their biggest customer bases was small businesses, which I know a lot of us are focused a lot on right now as marketers. But this was a great example for us that I wanted to share with the audience. So can you play Verizon's Pay It Forward Live?
In the beginning, while most of us were safe at home, millions of small businesses were wondering if they'd ever open again.
If we were to close, we don't just close as a restaurant, we close as a community. It's heartbreaking.
As a company that connects people, we rushed to help however we could. We rallied our network and called on some friends who were stuck at home with us.
I'm very excited because I haven't performed in a long time. So thank y'all for tuning in live. I'm Chance the Rapper. This is Verizon. Pay it forward live to support small businesses.
This is the opportunity to help these businesses sustain.
They've been serving us for decades. It's time for us to serve them.
It wasn't pretty or polished, but our first performer went live just a week after lockdown.
I'm just going to assume that everything's going smoothly and that you're there.
And they kept streaming live from their living rooms twice a week for 8 weeks.
Whatever happens does happen in real time.
So I sing a song for the hustlers trading at the tough guy, like it really rough guy.
Singing, guys. La, 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 hey, la, la, la.
Through our partnership with LISC, every stream meant more support for Black, minority, and women-owned small businesses hit hardest by COVID-19.
Verizon is donating $10 every time they see the hashtag #PayItForwardLive.
But what started as some streams to help our neighbors in need turned into a movement much bigger than Verizon. As more partners joined the program, we innovated new ways for fans to support the local places they love. And since the cause mattered more than the credit, Verizon even invited other big brands to make the mission their own, bringing millions of viewers and dozens of big names together to help America's smallest businesses.
It was a relief that I needed. I could actually breathe and get some bills paid.
It will absolutely save our business.
I know that there'll be better days.
Amazing. That's really incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, to think about how quickly, when something like that would normally take months to put together, and not necessarily knowing what the business result was, but then now it's been something that they've realized has really helped them with their business customers. So it was pretty crazy to see that what you can do when you just are about action and you know what your North Star is, you know. I know you were mentioning like your own company too took some great actions as well.
Yeah, the thing I love about that too is just, you know, we're seeing so much more collaboration over competition, and, you know, the long-term actions and the evidence that this is going to continue to trump short-term commentary from brands. And so I think the example that you just showed with Verizon, just around the real-time nature of this, but also leading with empathy,
sort of.
generosity, the real impact and of this experience on the collective, you know. And as an agency, we've also just been doing some reflecting through this whole experience about, you know, the future of work that's upon us, the future of our industry. And I do think in many ways, you know, we were talking about this, but COVID and the global health pandemic has almost set us up in a way and has readied us and prepared us to really take on this racial and social justice movement in our industry, in our clients' businesses, and really just across the world. And so we really jumped on this and took this as part of our Commit to Change plan as an opportunity to create something new and open up access to the industry and try to think about unconventional ways to bring people in and really create and accelerate the kind of change that we all want to see. And so, you know, I think as agencies, we have a tendency in many instances to focus on the pipeline and apprenticeship and youth and these sorts of things. And while certainly it is important, and we were all confined to our homes, worrying about, you know, how are we going to get interns in, et cetera, it was also just a chance to give something back to our community large, and to create a program, a free program, really for anybody with an interest and a curiosity in creativity to come and learn and explore and grow and decide whether this is, you know, something for them. Maybe this business failed them at one point, or there were too many barriers that existed in order for them to kind of break through. And I really see this as an opportunity to kind of combat ageism and racism simultaneously. And so this open house program that we launched over the summer, we have a quick wrap film to just sort of the process, but it was just the disciplines. It actually brought in personal values and your soul purpose and meditation and mental health and all of these things that enable people to be their whole selves in their career. So take a look at this film.
When COVID-19 closed all New York agencies, we broke down barriers to keep dreams alive and started Open House. Open House is advertising for all. No tuition needed, no formal education required.
Hello.
Thank you, California. It's a little bit early. I am impressed.
And slowly allow your breaths to go out.
I really learned more about myself.
Saw absolute experts in the field still hungry to learn.
My experience felt wild, and what I came to understand was that wild is kind of the norm.
It's democratic. There's no stupid questions. There's no stupid opinions.
I didn't know where I wanted to go in this field. I feel that the Open House program has really brought me a sense of direction.
Okay. Are you all hiring residents?
James, you tricked me. James is hustling. I'm not managing James. Every opportunity is a good one.
It's great because it's like we talk a lot about purpose with other brands, but I think it was also an opportunity for agencies to find their own as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had students, we had a CMO, we had a hedge fund manager, just a real diverse group and mix. But and again, you know, it's something that's going to continue to evolve and hopefully will extend to Open Brief and start to really solve real challenges through creativity through this program. But really encouraging that, you know, we were able to do this under lockdown.
That's great. Yeah. The other thing I think we were talking about that resonated was, you know, our job, I think, the truth has always been that we're here to solve big challenges. And I think with a crisis like this, how much, you know, creative opportunity it brought, right? And how we as partners to brands, how do we reframe those as opportunities and embrace those and realize the power that creativity can have, but also I think the need for that trust and partnership to do those things as well.
Absolutely. I know that you had talked about some of the collaboration that you had done navigating some of these new territories together. And I love the story about the gin.
Oh, yes. I don't know that necessarily like saving beer is the best and biggest cause out there. You know, we worked on a lot of different types of projects, but I think more than what it was, and we'll share this assignment that we did, it was about a community. It's about what, you know, beer is the brand, but what does it really represent? And in this case, a community that's livelihood was based on bringing people together in bars, and a lot of the beer, but was going to go to waste, and they came up with an ingenious idea, my team in Buenos Aires. And I think that point you made earlier about this was a time where I think because we were not overthinking things, we were doing what was right and a little bit more in that generosity, like thinking above what just the brand needs, but what's right to do. It went across brands and borders and it ended up being a really amazing experience and idea. So I want to show you a little bit about that. Great.
We could soon see a lot more of this in Wisconsin, beer dumping.
The most famous beer festival is the latest in a series of global events to be cancelled.
Hundreds have lost their jobs with sales down. Brewers are having to dump their expired beer.
20,000 kegs sitting in bars and restaurants that have to be dumped.
Nosotros viviendo en Bariloche dependemos mucho del turismo y la verdad que el contexto nos afectó muchísimo.
Nadie está preparado para afrontar algo así, un parate total, un cierre total.
Teníamos 14.000 litros que si no se reabría, ¿qué íbamos a hacer con eso, no?
Si no mejoraban las cosas íbamos a tener que tirar toda la producción de cerveza.
Descubrimos que podíamos utilizar los barriles que teníamos en stock para hacer un gin a base de cerveza. Recolectamos todos los barriles de las diferentes cervecerías y los mandamos a destilar para crear nuestro gin.
Nosotros recibimos las cervezas en la destilería y creamos un hoppy gin y un gin con saúco. Es una partida muy pequeña y exclusiva.
¡Chao! ¡Qué buena que está, che!
Es un orgullo ser parte de esto.
Para ayudar a las cervecerías artesanales, están pasando momentos complicados.
Salir adelante, buscarla pelear con ingenio.
Un trabajo muy interesante que han hecho transformando la cerveza de Patagonia y otras 3 cervecerías de Bariloche.
Es otro ejemplo de supervivencia, claro, de coraje.
Poder hacer una edición única, como dice la botella, pero esto que hicimos queda para siempre.
I think too, what I liked about what that I think says, maybe a lesson to take away, is like, what business are our brands really in, right? Like to sometimes think that they're maybe just a beer company, but they realize that they were a company that brings people together, and to come up with a whole new product, now selling gin because of what happened is pretty amazing to see that sort of innovation happen in this time. I know you had something similar that you worked on with a client as well.
I didn't even realize we had this in common, I think, but to your point, when you really get down to it and you think about, for us, we've been working with Keurig Dr. Pepper for quite some time, and particularly on the coffee side of the business, the platform has really been around brewing the love. And like you said in your opening, and we saw in the example with Verizon, like a lot of small businesses across the country, local coffee roasters were really working hard to recover and rebuild through this. And one of the premier brands under the portfolio, Keurig, was really inspired by that plight. And I think, the premise is that when you have really deep partnership and trust, you're able to really take the creativity and craft to the next level and make something. Much was the case with what we just saw with yours with gin. And so in this instance, we had the Brew the Love Together, which brought these 5 talented roasters together from across America to co-create a limited edition collection. And all the proceeds, of course, similarly are going back to support the roaster small business. And this blend is called Keurig Love Blend, and it's available for purchase on Keurig.com. I'll play the film.
Well, I've definitely been drinking a lot of beer and gin as well as coffee, so it's totally appropriate.
Totally appropriate. So let's take a look at the Brew the Love Together film.
I think the power of coffee and bringing people together is a big one. Togetherness and community is so vital now more than ever.
One of the things that makes specialty coffee really special is the community around it.
When the crisis hit, we were forced to go back to the drawing board and to rethink what is it that we were trying to do.
So the idea with the Keurig Love Blend is to bring 5 roasters together from all across the country to collaborate and create a special blend.
I see the Love Blend as a way for Keurig to be doing something pretty great to help support the specialty coffee community.
You've got folks from all over the nation coming together to put their own expertise into this coffee, shake it up, and give you something special.
I think there's an opportunity for us roasters to really collaborate and make a smooth and well-balanced coffee.
The Keurig Love Blend will help our business stabilize. It will help us rest assured that we'll be able to continue to employ our staff.
With love and passion for community, you can do special things. You can bring love into the world.
By pre-ordering the Keurig Love Blend now, your purchase goes on to support the small roasters who came together to create it.
That's awesome.
So the goal of this event was to really bring that art, of the local specialty coffee to people nationwide. But really, I think the spirit of collaboration and being able to combine that roasting knowledge and bring that kind of expertise and mastery and use the supply chain in a way that benefited the collective is really special. But it goes back to generosity and just that spirit of collaboration.
It's also just, as amazing to see all of the work that we've all been doing during this time and doing it, in a way that is totally new, like working from wherever we are across Zooms and all the different technologies that have been at the center of that. So the new way of working, I think there truly is going to be a change to how we work. But I do think that we've also realized the truth of just what's needed to build culture, teams. There's something missing though still. So it's like as we go back to a different way of working, how are we utilizing that new way that's in service of people, and then also still, I think, having that creative culture at the center of it that's still really needed. Some of the interactions that we have inside places, how do we maintain that and bring that in still while obviously going to be totally different in how we maybe work in the future, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people have been asking logistically, questions about return to office or the role of the office in the future. And for us, it's been helpful to really take a step back in a 360 view and recognize that, we're never going to be 100% physical business and work experience anymore. And, nor are we going to be entirely virtual, but this ability to embrace what's been working so well and in many ways have been the gift of this experience, but not losing sight of the fact that, in the creative business where it is about collaboration and culture and coming together, swarming problems, planned spontaneity, thinking out loud, finding those hidden patterns and connections. It's so hard when it's linear and it's contained in Teams and Zooms and Slacks and things. And yes, we can be more efficient, but it's about creating breakthrough, effective work. And for me, as I think about the office and coming together in the culture, it really is about being way more intentional with our time in that experience. So I think first and foremost, as a CEO, looking at the CDC and the state guidelines and trying to over-index on safety measures and protocols and things to just give people a psychological safe space to come back to. It's about really defining and redefining and reframing what the experience is, when we come back together in more capacity. And I'm curious to hear from you what you think that experience is going to be like. What are some of the new creative paradigms and norms in culture as we move forward? And what are some of the things that you're going to run back to? And what are some of the things that, will naturally fall behind because we've all sort of moved on from that kind of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what has been amazing to see, it's like, what are the things that we can take away that are truly in service of people and humans, right? What's great is that not everything has to be this 9 to 5 in one space. Like we can find and accommodate talent and people to actually help us have more of that, diverse, inclusive community, because we can be more flexible, because we can see that it can work. So having that ability to do that, I think is really exciting and great. But like ensuring that we still create those moments where you run into the halls, the serendipity, the like unexpected combinations and intersections that happen when you are in a space together, planning and being, like you said, more intentful around that. And I also think, the globality of it, this was, we have a global network, and I don't know that we have felt as global as when it takes a global pandemic and sometimes to really understand how global we really are, right? Like literally. And it's broken down because we're all in the same playing field in a way. We're all in the same Zoom. We're nowhere and everywhere at once. I think I've really felt, and I stepped into the global role just in the last couple of months, that we are truly global. We're working together in ways that we had never been. So we're both like further away and closer, and maintaining that connection where people kind of feel like they're all together at times, rather than these sometimes geographical differences that we have, is something that I want to try to maintain. But not, I don't want to only be on Zoom all day, because I'm also really fried from Zoom.
I can completely relate. I was going to say also, being part of a global network, what's been really helpful is coming together in a more regular cadence and learning from the experience. Some of my peer set has been a bit on the other side of the pandemic, and we're experimenting with a return to office, and working out what that experience means, and then sharing back, how that's coming to life, but recognizing that this is such a hyper local experience, and we all need to kind of navigate this, what's relevant to what's kind of happening around us. But it's been really cathartic, I think, to have this peer set. And to your point, that yes, it was initially COVID that kind of brought us together, but the conversations have evolved so far beyond the pandemic. It's just a natural way of kind of coming together now. It was a forcing function. So I'm grateful for that deep partnership, and having this distributed workforce and being able to, run our business. We've been making, as I know you have, on a weekly basis since the beginning of March. And if anything, that's only increased because of our ability to do so. So even some of the production and things that had kind of gone in-house over the years, we find ourselves looking at the brief behind the brief, and just being good partners. What can we do to truly help and make a difference? And that's really been beneficial. I know we've got a minute or so left. Questions.
Should we take a question with Tom back in here?
Laura and Tiffany, that was terrific, and there's so much about what you just expressed that I love and agree with wholeheartedly. The lean to action and to collaboration, the humanity of the work that you showed, the Verizon work was terrific. Laura, I think the open house, that initiative. I mean, it was all so interesting, and we thank you for your time. There's one question. We got a whole bunch of questions, and we only have time for one. And it's an interesting one, and I've chosen it because it's a little bit provocative. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that you would like it. So, so the question is that, with all of the polarization, so political and social polarization that exists in our world right now, how can creativity be balanced so that it is not necessarily polarizing? Or, the end of the question, should it be balanced?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen that, and this question comes up a lot, like, should brands have a role in some of the issues that are out there? And I think it's hard for brands to, like in the past, maybe not enter into a conversation or culture. It was like okay to just stand one down. And I actually think what we saw is that standing down, not saying something, was saying something. And more brands, I think, had to, and we're getting to the purpose, the value that you bring to people. Having a point of view and beliefs is really critical. And we're seeing more and more too, agencies having to align and have a point of view and what they stand for as well. And I just think that it's hard for it to be perfectly balanced. If you mean like we have to be kind of for everyone, and in some ways then you're for no one, right? And I think there's just going to be a lot more lines that have to be drawn, and brands that need to really define what they're for. And I think the expectation is that brands play a role, have a voice, to have a real connection with people in the way they need to, and how media platforms work today. So I think we'll see it where brands have to be brave and bold and stand for something.
Do you want to build on that?
You want to add into that?
Yeah.
I'll quickly build on that. As a modern leader, if you're not focused on the core issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion, sustainability, climate change, taking responsibility for the whole story, how you source your product, how you treat your people, where you are, the totality of your actions. I think there's just pressure, to Tiff's point, that this is beyond communication. This is really about the totality of how you show up in the world as a brand and how you help people whose value system and priority set shifted overnight with the pandemic. And now through the West being on fire and, the events of George Floyd and where we are as a society, there's never been a more important time for brands to lean into why they exist. And our job as agency leaders is to help cultivate and shape and steer that often authentically, so that everything that we say matches up with how they behave, and really people choose to engage with their content. People choose to willingly share. People would pay to see what they have to say. That's really the stakes. And that's kind of when I think about the paradigm shift for creativity. That's the new table stakes. Like this new normalcy isn't a phase. It's about making brands meaningful and relevant and resonant in culture. And to do that, these are the core issues that we're all facing as a society.
Well, I have a feeling that we could have this conversation for the next couple of hours in and of itself, but we'll actually move on to another session in just a little while. We're going to have a particular session on brands taking a stand, so that'll pick up from this conversation. I want to thank you both so much. Great insights, great work. It was just a real delight to have you with us at this event. So thank you. And
thanks, Tom.
Beth, yep, you're very welcome. Beth, what else are we going to reimagine today?